All right, y'all. Welcome back to Cyclence Unlocked with me, Sydney Gillen,
Damian Segovia. Hey guys.
and we are
Hey
here
Al.
for episode 3. D, are
Yes,
you ready for
definitely.
episode 3?
Yes.
Okay. So this time I put up a blog, a little poll on Instagram about like things y'all want us to talk about. So we're gonna do these next few episodes as a Q&A. So we're gonna answer a lot of the questions. We have some great quality questions, and so I have on my phone. I'm gonna run down. I organized them this time because we have notes. And so we're gonna just jump right into it. So one of the questions that we got a lot was healthy ways of weight loss. So D, I'll let you take it away as the coach, and I can kind of follow up behind you. What are the healthiest ways for weight loss, and then kind of like what are the pros, what are the cons of different things, and where can things go wrong?
Well, I would say the number one thing, just like a healthy way for weight loss, is you got to move your ass, people. Like y'all just got to move. Like there's so many clients. Sid can tell you her little story, but like the first time I start training people, I'm like, I need you to start tracking your steps. And people will text me, they're like, I'm getting 3,000 steps. I'm like, what do you mean 3,000 steps? They're like, I'm only getting 3,000 steps a day. I'm like, yo, it's not enough. I think as I want to say bodybuilders, we put us all in the bodybuilder category. We tend to do what we're told to do. So if you're told to do 5 sessions of 20 minutes of cardio, you just that. You're trying to conserve as much energy as you can after that because you got to lift and you're already a little bit feeling fatigued. You just got to move your ass. Like you just got to move. So I always encourage anybody to get any type of like wearable device that allows you to track. If you don't want to do that, you can get a cheap little pedometer off of like Amazon for $10. Start tracking how much you move. I don't think people realize how little they actually move in life. You know what I mean? So that's the number one. That I put that above everything else right there, first and foremost. Even before like starting to clean your diet up, get better sleep, all the normal stuff we know is you just gotta move your ass.
Yeah. And I'll second on that one because I think we started steps during COVID. Because
Yep.
before then, I was definitely that athlete who would sit down. I conserved every ounce of energy I had. If I was not in the gym, I'm on the couch. I'm walking slowly. I'm moving slowly. I'm doing everything slow as I can, conserve as much as I can. So I was one of those people, like especially on the Sunday rest day, I max 2,000 steps, max. That was about as high as it would get. Like that was it. And so I think I noticed the biggest difference, especially for us, because my whole thing was not getting too meaty in the improvement season, and steps definitely helped me keep my weight down and keep my body fat down overall. So that's probably one of the biggest ways to help with your healthy weight loss is just like you said, to move more, but it's also in how you move. Like when I do my steps, I'm just moving casually. I'm not out there doing a god doggone sprint. I'm not booking everywhere I'm go. I'm just moving from point A to point B, not sitting down as much. And so even now, my husband will go, he'll ask like, hey, we're watching a movie. And I'm like, now I got to finish my steps. So I'll be walking around in a circle in the kitchen, walk around in a circle in the kitchen. At road trips, I'm walking back and forth through the subway. We stop at a gas station. I'm walking back and forth like a weirdo in front of the gas station. So it's a lot of different, that's going to be one of those really important things for just overall health. And then I didn't even realize the benefits of walking overall. Cause I started, anytime D has me do something, I start Googling stuff. So I like to Google stuff. And I was like, yeah, there's a lot of benefits to this. He's so right, which I already knew, but I just like to get the research. And so that's probably one of the biggest things is just movement.
Yeah, I mean, people always ask, like, even before, like, I had my health concerns a couple of years ago, I ate really poorly, but I still was always fairly lean because I moved. I mean, I clip 15 to 20,000 steps every day, all day. Don't even try. You know what I mean? And that's just what I do, and that allows me to stay fairly lean without really ever dieting, and just what it does for you mentally, physically, just everything. It's just emotionally, getting up in the morning and going for a walk can do so much to decrease that overall anxiety. And I think as women athletes, you guys deal with a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. You know what I mean? So if you can kind of quiet that in the beginning of the day, your day is going to be that much more productive, and your body's going to be more efficient because you're not dealing with those kind of inner factors, internal factors that are slowing everything down.
Yeah, and morning walks too. Just getting out there and getting that vitamin D, it actually
Yep,
helps get your cortisol in a good place. That way you're
for sure.
just able to just decompress and move throughout the day. Because I had to start putting that in. I started back to my morning walks. I always did them during prep. Like after I get back home from fasted, I would eat my breakfast and go right back out for another walk just to kind of drop my insulin levels after I eat my breakfast and keep moving. But now in retirement, it's like it is a mental thing, but it's also making sure that cortisol stays in a good place just for lifestyle and just health and just being a person. You kind of want to just stay in that good spot. And so walking probably was the best part, but just that sunlight, that initial sunlight. As soon as I get up in the morning, I don't call it like fasted, but I don't eat before I get up. I get up, put my clothes on, get outside, get the sunlight in my face, soak up the air. I don't scroll Instagram. I'm making sure that all those things are kind of just on the back burner so that I can put myself first and have my mental health and have my body ready to take on the day, like Dee said.
For sure. So I'd say number 2 thing would be like artificial foods, like artificial sweeteners, anything. Like we get there's so many products out now that you can eat what you want, but not necessarily get the calories. And people don't realize the amount of chemicals that are in those, from energy drinks to sugar-free syrups. Like a little bit here and there, fine. But if you're doing that every day, the amount of inflammation it's causing your internals is just, I think it just makes it to where you can't even process real food correctly. So that would be my number 2.
That's a big one because I remember you. Because okay, for backstory, y'all, I used to when Dee and I first started training together. I was a condiment junkie. Like I would drink bottles of hot sauce basically, and Dee be like, "Hey, listen, I need you to pull that back. Like you're doing a bit too much." So then when I pulled the hot sauce back, I dove deep into my sugar-free barbecue sauces, and I mean, I was not measuring them. I barbecue sauce everywhere, just throw it everywhere, all in the prep. And then I got to that final week, Dee be like, "Okay, you got to pull your sauces." I'm like, damn, this food tastes nasty as hell. And I'm like, okay. So after that point, but also digestion wise, like I always have good digestion. But what I found is once I got off that, I always look for ways in the improvement season to make prep easier on myself, mentally, physically, taste buds, everything just better. And so I just pulled all artificial sweeteners. I don't even eat them now, but I pulled all artificial sweeteners all together. No sauces of any sort unless it's a cheat day. And what I found is by the time I got to that last week, I didn't feel like there was any difference because I'd been eating the same thing from the beginning of the year all the way through prep and all the way to the final week. So there was no change in my taste buds for me to be able to get reacclimated to the food. So mentally, I'm like, oh, I'm good. Like it's just another week because nothing changed from the rest of the year. And then digestion wise, I also noticed that everything moved a lot better when I was not on the artificial sweeteners. And so I think that's a very, very important thing to watch out for. Now, everybody's not impacted the same by them, but I did notice a difference when I got off of them, especially because I stopped sugar-free barbecue sauce maybe 5 years ago. I think it was after going into our third Olympia win. That's when I stopped those. Yeah. I was like, nope.
Yeah.
And cut it out. And life was great ever since then.
Yeah. I would say if you want to use like a sugar-free, I'd rather someone just use a regular barbecue sauce.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you got to account for the sugar and you got to factor that into your total, caloric intake. But I would rather somebody do that than keep putting chemicals every single meal. Why take something like a chicken and white rice and then all of a sudden put a chemical in it? You know what I mean?
Right.
So those would be my top 2.
What's the third one?
Ooh. Those are my top 2. I'm not sure if I got a third one.
I would give a third one. The third one would be managing your stress. Okay. So if you're doing healthy ways to lose weight and all you do is stress all the time, every single second about every single thing that you can't even control, that's going to be a hindrance to your overall life and definitely to weight loss. Like there are some people who stress and they can lose weight off of that, but like, do you really want to lose weight because you're not eating and you're not sleeping and you're not giving your body anything to kind of work with? So you kind of got to ask yourself what type of lifestyle you want to have and make sure that you're, again, taking this all in as a lifestyle. Because when you're losing weight, you don't want to just lose weight for a couple weeks and then it come back. And that's what happens if you don't change your overall lifestyle. You have to put all these measures in place, whether it's walking all the time, whether it's getting your 8 hours of sleep, 7 to 8 hours of your sleep, drinking enough water, hydration, eating your food properly. And if you're doing macros, you're going to have to be a little bit more cognizant of what you're actually eating, because a lot of people do macros and they want to throw in Pop-Tarts and like they say, all these chemicals. You're throwing in a whole bunch of rando stuff that is going to be a hindrance down the road and longevity wise in terms of just how your gut moves. And so you got to be conscious of all those things and make sure that you're creating an actual lifestyle that is going to benefit you and just keep you healthy for the rest of your life instead of just for like 16 weeks or a week.
Yeah. You touched on it. Within that, I would say my third would be sleep. You already kind of touched on that. And just making sure you allow enough time for sleep. People don't realize, ever since I've been wearing a Whoop, which is like a wearable similar to a lot of other ones, I average probably 40 to 60 minutes per night where I'm awake. My body's moving. I snore a little bit here and there. So like I might lay down with a 7-hour window being like, I'm getting 7 hours of sleep. I'm really only getting 6. because about an hour of it, I'm up using the restroom, like I said, snoring, whatever, aches and pains, maybe my body's
Yeah.
tossing and turning. So I'm getting 6 hours of sleep a night. And I'm telling you right now, if you're trying to diet and you're trying to prep, 6 hours of sleep simply is not going to be enough. You are
Yeah.
not giving your body enough time to recover, and you're just going to kind of run it to the point where it's going to backfire at some point on you. So people don't realize a lot of times when they're unable to lose weight properly, a lot of it's just because they're not getting enough sleep.
Absolutely. And a
Yeah.
large part too of getting better sleep is going to be your sleep routine. Like when I, even to this day, I just, again, y'all know I like a set schedule and I will stick to that for the rest of my life. It just is what it is at this point. What I do is literally like an hour before it's time to go to bed, I do my shutdown routine. And that includes my phone is out the room. No more scrolling on social media, none of that stuff. Not even too many conversations. I take my phone, put it in another room so I'm not getting that extra light. And I have my book. So for that hour before I'm about to go to bed, my come down time is my book every single night for an hour. So that way my brain is just slowly shutting down. My nervous system kind of starts to relax. And then I go to sleep. But I make sure that I'm doing like something that last hour that's not going to keep my heart rate raised. And I can literally feel like once that hour hits and I start getting a little groggy, my heart rate just starts dropping and dropping and dropping. And next thing you know, it's time to go to sleep. So if you don't have a sleep routine, you're going to want to make one.
For sure.
Like your newborn
100%.
baby. Make a routine.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
All right. Next question. Let's see. Number 2. Diet in off season and in season, meal plan or not, and how do you manage portion sizing in the off season?
I'll let you go with that one.
So it really depends on just like your personality type and how you are as a person. So for me, I don't like a whole bunch of variables in my life, especially when you have so much going on like I do. There's a lot happening. And when you have a lot of pieces jumbling around in your life, I'm like, D, make me a meal plan. So when we first started working together, I don't need the macros. Tell me what to eat. I will eat the same thing every single day for the rest of my life and not have a problem with it. But if you're not like that, macros may be better for you. But you got to kind of do a little bit of introspection and be like, do I want macros because I want to eat Pop-Tarts every day and cookies every day and throw in a little cookie? That's a question you want to ask yourself. But if you're a person who can eat one cookie and that gets you good and you can move on, maybe macros work for you. So you got to be really, really introspective and honest with yourself and objective about what you do as a person and what your habits are and what habits need to be broken. So for me, I do a year-round meal plan even to this day, and I've been retired for 6 months. I'm still on a meal plan. Dee makes my meal plan, and I eat the same things every single day. I just add in a couple of cheat meals here and there. So that way I'm kind of trying to, for me, my goal now is to break some of my rigidity so that I'm able to be ready for like children and everything like that, because I am very rigid. And I told D like, hey D, I had a second cheat meal today. He was like, good job, kid. And I'm like, that's a big deal. And I even went up to a third day. I said, you know what? It's Sunday. Let's add something else off the plan. And I'm still losing weight. So that's good. That's a good vibe. But it's a mental thing for me.
Don't let her. She ain't breaking her rigidity. Trust me. We was at the Arnold, and it's like Friday morning, and I have two head judges come up to me and go, "Yo, we just saw Sid working out in the gym." They're like, "Man, she's killing her glute workout." And I said, "Look," and they go, "I thought she retired." I said, "Yo, look at this." And I showed them my phone. I said, "She just checked in this morning." I said, "She told me she's retired." I told them, I said, "Tell her to leave me the F alone." And I was like, "That's just who she is."
Yeah.
My thing when I would tell you to do, whether you want to do a meal plan or macros, would be more based on your lifestyle. So what people don't realize maybe about you is when you and I first met, you had a goal and you set your life to go like to work around that goal. Most people already have their life, and then they have a goal now they want to introduce. So if you got kids, if you got a husband that's not going to be as supportive as your husband was, macros is probably going to be the best for you because it allows you to still maintain a little bit of a normal life without people starting to be like, "Oh, you're changing. You're not the same. You're so obsessed with food. Like we go to dinners and you're bringing your Tupperware." Some people are not going to be okay with that. You know what I mean? And you have to decide what's more important. You know what I mean? And granted, you got to be able to have goals in life, and you got to be able to have things for you as individuals. But if you already have a pre-existing life that people have expectations, and you have to find a way to make it work. You know what I mean? Not everybody can do necessarily what Sid does or some of the other top athletes have been able to do. Not everybody has that luxury, and not everybody has that type of willpower. You know what I mean? So I think for you, you built your life around your goal. Most of the people aren't doing that. Most of the people are introducing goals, especially as they get older in life. And so for them, meal planning sometimes can be hard because then it starts to become to where the people around you are constantly fighting what you're doing and being negative towards it instead of
Yeah.
finding a way to make it work, you know?
Now, we'll say, to second piggyback off of that, if you have people around you who are nitpicking what your decisions are, if they're for the betterment of your life, you might want to reassess some conversation that need to be had with that too. There has to be some little leeway on both sides. So,
Yeah.
just in case you were that person, that is actually one of the questions that's going to be on a future podcast. But if you're one of those people, just watch out for things like that. Like, there should be a happy medium. Just saying there. All right. So I already touched on that. So the answer to that is I do a meal plan year round, so I don't have to worry about focusing on portions because D already told me which portion I'm eating. Mm-hmm. And what I found is in retirement, I was telling D about this, in retirement, I actually want to eat less. Like when it comes to, I think it's too, because D was like, your food's never going to be taken away. So it's not as much of a rush to eat the food. It's not a necessity. Like I wouldn't say I was obsessed about it. Yeah, it was just never going to be pulled. So it's really not that serious anymore. So what I found with that is, especially now, it's like, okay, I don't have to do 1 meal a week. If I do 3, 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to eat a whole bunch on that Friday. I can just get something else that I may have wanted on that Saturday or that Sunday. And what I found is at this point, I don't really want anything. So I eat my little salad. Like yesterday, I had me some little zucchini with some pasta sauce. And that's a cheat for me because I don't eat pasta sauce. So I drizzled that bad boy over there with some hot sauce. And I was good to go. I put 2 muffins with it. And I was like, that's it. That's my cheat. That is about as much as I need because at the end of the day, too, what I'm finding is when it comes to, we have a question about cheat meals, too, but that'll be answered down the road. You're going to eat based off of your current circumstances. So you want to be watchful for that and just really see how you need to be eating and remembering what your goals are and assessing off of that. I could get away with eating a lot of food because I have a big muscle on my frame and the way I train allows that food to digest and move forward. So a lot of people can't get away with what I was able to do in the past and currently. It just doesn't, it's not for everybody. So always be aware of that. Question number 3. Okay, this is a good question. When people say they want to be like you, how do you translate that to them? Okay, so this is it's a multifaceted question in the sense that it requires a lot of different things. I'm going to describe how I am, and then describing how I am will kind of tell you what traits you may want to pick up on and some that just may not fit your lifestyle. I am very much a confrontational person, okay? So what that means is, confrontational has a negative connotation to it. I don't view it as a negative. Confrontation means you're not going to pussyfoot around the issue. Confrontation means you're going to handle it head on, handle your business, move on from it, and keep it pushing. So you got to have a little bit of confrontation in you. Because if you're not confrontational, 9 times out of 10, you're a people pleaser. And if you're a people pleaser, you're not going to have a life that looks anything like mine. Because I say no a lot. And that's my boundaries. I have very, very strict boundaries that I put in place that have allowed me to get to what I have and allow me to accomplish what I have in life. And that is all due to boundaries. And that can look as simple as your friend asking you, hey, Sid, why don't you eat this piece of cake? Da-da-da-da. And I say, hey, friend, I know I already told you that I'm on a diet. Please don't ask me that again. And they stop asking me. Okay, stop asking me that because now you're getting disrespectful and you're getting rude, and that's a boundary. You got to decide whether it's worth you keep playing in my face about a goal I already told you I had for you to keep asking me something you know I don't even need. So you got to be conscious of that. And so that's also, in the same breath, watching who you keep around you. All right, my circle is very, 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 very small for a reason. Right there. I like to keep it real cute. That's it. So that way you don't have to worry about so much noise coming into your life. Noise is going to be there. So of course you want to learn how to handle that. I learned that as a kid, how to handle a lot of the noise because I've always had people talking about me, just always talking. So that was ever since middle school. So now I've gotten to this age where you are understanding and aware that people will always talk about you, whether it's good or bad. It's always going to happen. Stress will always be there, and you got to control what you can control. So if I'm telling somebody how to create a life like mine, it's going to center around boundaries. It's going to center around self-love. It's going to center around self-respect. It's going to center around making sure that you are putting yourself first in terms of your mental health and your well-being so that you're able to pour into others. Because I'm a very, very giving person, and that's what has forced me to create a lot of my boundaries so that I don't get used and abused. So that's going to be a key thing just in terms of how to navigate. And I also have a very, very, very strict work ethic that has been manifested over 20 plus years of just very, very intense lifestyle living. And so there's a certain amount of intensity that allows you to get to where I am and stay where I am. And so all of those things kind of encompass what you're going to need in order to really accomplish anything in life. To me, that's worth keeping, because if you can't tell people no, you're going to wear yourself thin and you're going to have nowhere else to go. So, D, any piggity back on that? No.
Ain't nobody want to be like me.
So that's what I'll say on that. It can be hard because a lot of people aren't confrontational, and people, like I said, people view confrontation in a negative light when it's really not. It's just a matter of people will allow you to do whatever you allow them to do. All right. So if I keep showing up to your doorstep disrespecting you, you keep allowing it and not speaking up for yourself, I'm going to keep disrespecting you because you've showed me you're not going to say anything. You're not going to stand your ground. You're not going to push back. So thus you're going to get played with. And so I move through life as if you're not going to play with me.
Yep.
That's how
I mean, for me, I always tell people, like, you're always going to have people talking about you if you're successful. And
yes.
it doesn't matter what type of person you are. If you're like me and Sid and you're real quiet, guess what? People are going to talk because they don't know what the hell's going on, so they got to fill in the blanks. So they just make shit up because they don't know. If you're loud, like some of the other people are, like to put it all out there, then you just giving people ammo to talk. So no matter what, they're going to talk. Whether you loud or you quiet, people are going to talk if you're successful. So, yeah, it's like Sid said, if you plan on trying to be successful in anything in life, realize people are going to talk about you. And it's a good thing because it means that you're worth being talked about.
Right.
So,
agreed. And to sum it all up, I will just honestly just say be a hard ass. Yeah. Life is great when you're a hard ass. Folks do not play in my face. As soon as I see you getting ready to play, you getting boop, you're out of there. Yep. Goodbye. You're gone, and you will not come back. I don't do no take backsies. Once you're gone, you're out of there, and there is no circling back around the block. It's not happening.
Yep.
All right, D, this question was for you.
All right.
So, for someone who has coached an 8-time Olympic champion, how'd you build that relationship?
Honestly, I would say you just got to be honest. You just got to be black and white. You know, trying to build a relationship with anybody, you just have to be very upfront. Like you talk about boundaries, you just have to be very direct and really honest with that person, because if you are ever going to try to go on that type of endeavor where somebody has a goal, one, you need to be realistic with that person. Is it feasible? Because don't tell somebody it's feasible when it ain't, because in the end, you can be an asshole in the beginning or you can be an asshole at the end. The only difference is I lied, so now I'm a lying asshole versus just a regular asshole. So I choose the first. So just being really honest, and then just communicating as much as you can with that person, your level of expectations, what they expect from you, what you expect from them. And I think you can't go wrong from there, because honestly, it just comes down to just communicating. That's it.
And I think most people don't know our backstory. I think you might have heard if I said it on the podcast before, but people always ask, like, how do we meet? And so let's flash it back to, what year was that? I've done 2 Olympias kind of by myself. I had a friend who did my nutrition, and we were kind of just winging it. It's like, we carving up today. What are we doing today? We just hop on the stage, see what happens. That was my first 2 Olympias. It worked out. Got top 10 twice. So, hey, it was kind of destined for me to keep going up once I got some organization. So I remember it was me and my friend Andrea. We were walking around, And she's another figure pro. So not Andrea Shaw, my other figure friend. So we were walking around the gala and there were no seats left. And I saw 2 seats. I said, hey girl, mind you, I am naive, y'all. When I tell y'all I don't know nothing really about the sport, nobody in the sport, y'all think I was quiet this whole time. Y'all had to see me before I even got my pro card. Then when I got the pro card, I may have posted once a month max. And I shut up. I stay in the corner by myself because, again, I'm a child. What am I talking to adults about? I'm 20 years old. I'm in college. Like, I'm a junior in college. What conversations am I actually having? So I'm going to be quiet and sit in the corner. So fast forward, we're at the Olympia Gala, and I saw the seat. And so I was like, okay, girl, there's one on the other side. Mind you, I don't even know who I'm sitting next to. I just sit down. I'm like, hello. And I sit down. And I think, did you speak? I know I didn't speak. I'm not a speaker first, sir. So you had to have said something.
I think Whitney initiated it.
Okay.
Whitney initiated the conversation.
Yeah, because Whitney Jones was sitting on the other side. It's funny how this all comes full circle. So she was sitting on the other side, and now that I know who everybody was, I feel like Shannon Day was on the other side, and we were across from Candace Lewis and her husband. Mind you, I ain't know nothing about nothing. I'm talking about clueless. And so that's when our first actual meeting was. And then he would just pop up. He was clearly at all the shows today, all the top athletes. And so I saw him again like the Arnold the next time. He would crack a joke because, he corny, y'all. So he always had to crack a joke. And then after that, I was like, I looked at my mom. I said, hey, there has to be a better way we're doing things. We're kind of like, as organized as I am, for me to be as like still in that much chaos going into a show didn't really track. It wasn't matching kind of how I do things. And so I said, okay, maybe we do need to talk to somebody. And I remember there was this other coach that was the same time Dee and I were starting to talk about working together. He was like, this is how he entered the conversation. Yeah, you said you're not doing anything right. You could be great, but this is just off. It's off. It's off. I said, who the is he talking to? I was like, this ain't the vibe. This is it. If you thought this was going to get you the job, this is not how it's going to get got, buddy. It's not going to happen. So anyway, I deaded that. My mama was looking like, why is he talking like that? So anyway, that deaded it. And then when I was talking to Dee, I forgot how the conversation even came up, but I was like, hey, you got to talk to my mama. Because when back then, still now, everything goes to my mama. If my mama don't like you, my mama ain't for the situation, it's not happening. It's not going to happen. So do you remember the conversation, my mama?
Yeah, I remember.
How'd it go?
On the phone. Yeah. Your mom asked a lot of questions. I just asked her to give me her trust, and it took us a little bit to get through that conversation on the phone. But when her and I both got off the phone, I think she was comfortable. So
yeah. And the key thing for my mom and for me looking at, I needed a coach who was going to be able to coach natural athletes, be honest with me, and making sure that I will always have my health first, and that I was able to get as far as I wanted to go in the sport. And so I took a leap because, mind you, when I tell you I'm a control freak, I like to keep the reins on me. So that's probably why the chaos was fine, because I was still kind of controlling it. Yeah. But when I let the reins go, and I was like, okay, we're going to trust it, because that was a big trust, because I was like, okay, we got this new guy coming in. And this is the time where I knew I was going to make top 5 at the Arnold. Like, I was like, this is my time, only solely because 2 people who had beaten me before were gone. So I was like, You know what? Mathematically, it's my time to jump on in that bad boy. So I was like, okay, we got to take a leap of faith, and let's hope I don't get messed up off of this. And that was our first show together, and it worked out.
Yep.
It worked out
pretty well.
So I would say if you're looking for coaches too, a lot of the time there's going to be a little different, because a lot of people want the relationship that Dee and I have. Like, when I tell y'all, like, the amount of information I give my husband and my mama, I give to Dee. Like, when we're doing the check-in, I'd be like, I relayed in here, didn't poop today. I give a whole rundown. He knows my whole business, okay? He knows everything, because I don't hold nothing back. If you want that relationship with another coach, it's going to be kind of hard, because I was just talking to my mom about this. It's either the athlete is a little bit off or the coach is a little bit off. It's very rare that they both can kind of be level-headed and on the same page, personality-wise, business-wise, life-wise. It's very rare that's going to be able to happen as organically as ours did, because there's always something a little bit off. Either the client is a little bit too needy or the coach is too hands-off, and it doesn't match for their type of just how they are. So I would say it's possible, but you gotta just make sure you're finding your right match, and you'll know. It's just like any other relationship. You'll know when it's right, and you'll know when it's wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Again, it comes back to communication. As long as you communicate with that person back and forth, usually y'all can work to it to find where it works for both of you guys, where it meshes really well. So
yeah,
communicate.
That's right. Question number 5. How to shut out the noise around you that is often detrimental to one's progress.
Yeah, we kind of touched on that a little bit.
We kind of did. We kind of did. I'll go more in depth in terms of what I do, like closer to shows. So
Yep.
closer to shows. Now I'm a noise shutter outer 24/7. So anytime mess comes up, if you don't put that junk on my doorstep, baby, I ain't seeing it. Okay, it ain't got nothing to do with me. And my friends already know. Don't put no unless it needs to be known. Don't put that junk on my doorstep. I don't want to hear about it. I don't care. I don't care. And so again, setting those boundaries with your friends, making sure that they're not bringing the noise to your doorstep, setting the boundary with your family, making sure they're not bringing extra noise and stress to that doorstep. That's going to be paramount. And communication too is making sure that like, hey, I don't need to hear this right now. Like I usually shut down like that last 6 weeks, but definitely 3 weeks out from a show. I tell my mama like, listen, hey, it's 21 days. I don't care if somebody passed away. I don't care if the dog died. I don't care if you got a new fish. There's nothing that I can do about it right now. So why tell me and why put that mental load on me when you know I have this goal to do that still needs to be reached regardless of what's happening out there? I can't control it. It's already been done. So what can I do about it? And so that's why I set that boundary very, very clearly. And I've done that for the last probably 15 years. But as I got older, it had to be even more strict because, as you get older, a lot more stressors happen. A lot of life is happening around you. So you have to communicate more. And I communicated, hey, that same boundary that I instilled at 18, it ain't changed at 32. Run it through. It's the same. I'm the same person. I'm just more intense. If anything, I am more intense than I was when I was 18. That's the only difference. And so I tell them, hey, listen, don't bring it over here. Keep all of that to yourself. Tell me after. Like literally this last prep, I wasn't close to her, so it didn't bother me as much. This might sound cold, but it is what it is. I'm going to be honest here. My step grandmother, we had no relationship. I didn't even know she passed. Kid y'all not. I'm in Greece, and they said something about a funeral. I said, whose funeral? And my mama was like, oh yeah, we didn't tell you. I'm like, who died? They're like, your great grandma. I said, oh damn. I had no idea. But again, boundaries. Now, had I had a relationship with this person, they probably would have told me right after the show a little bit closer, but they knew I didn't really have a relationship, so it can't. I also boundary wise, when you're thinking about shutting out noise, you have to have internal boundaries too. And so for me, that looks like I reserve a certain amount of emotional reactions for things that are close to me. Like if something happens to D, that's an emotional reaction. Something happens to my mama, emotional reaction. My husband, emotional reaction. My best friends, emotional reaction. Anybody else outside of that, I am going to be empathetic, yes. But in terms of an actual visceral reaction, that is reserved. I have a lump that is reserved right here on the side of my chest, by my heart. That's it. I can't because I have too many other things to do. And so that's a part of what I call my robot mode that I go into at the end, where you kind of shut off all feelings. Now, you can't necessarily do that for everybody's lifestyle. I can because of what, again, Dee said. I've built my life around this. Anybody who came in since I started So Young, I started at 14. Anybody who came in after 14, you knew what you were signing up for. You knew how intense I was. You knew what my priorities were. So you can't really have an issue because you knew ahead of time. Now, it can be different again if you have a family and everything else going around that. That's a little bit different. Depending on how your husband is or your wife is, a little bit different. So that's a large part of it too, of just being conscious of who brings the noise to your door, where you create that noise, because a lot of the times it's not even external people who create that noise. It's you. Oh, I don't think I'm ready. Oh, I don't do this. Oh, I don't think. If you've done everything your coach has told you to do, you followed your nutrition 150%, you've given everything you had and left no stone unturned, there's nothing else for you to do. Now, you can have that nervousness or that noise if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And what you're not supposed to do is focus on other people's journeys. That has nothing to do with you. So if you're constantly looking on Instagram and scrolling, that person looks like this, that you're missing the ball here. This is not about them. And I think ultimately when you're going to have less noise, when you know what your goals are and you are aware that there will always be noise, you can kind of put the blinders on and just ignore. And that's one thing that I'm really, really good at, is just ignoring a lot of things that have nothing to do with me.
Yeah. So let me put a little perspective on that for y'all listening out there. So like Sid, some of y'all who just listen and can't see visually, Sid's on a level, let's say 10 of where she is in her career. If you're on level 1, everything she said, yes, is good advice. But at the same time, if it's your first NPC show, you can't block everything out for 3 weeks. You can't miss bills. You can't do stuff. It's your first show. There's going to be another one 2 weeks later down the street or in another state. So it's okay if something like that happens, that if you have to step back and reset, that's okay. But when Sid and I are talking, we're talking about at the utmost highest level. So for us, there was no step back. There was, our one goal was to repeat and keep repeating until we were ready, to not, So I just want people to understand that, people that are listening. Everything you said, Sid, is obviously great advice, but you also, certain levels, that advice comes even more usable, pretty much. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. 1,000%. All right. So if y'all don't know already, clearly I told y'all I'm intense. That comes with a lot of things. I'm just very intense. All right. So I think we touched on this about a little bit. It said,
Yep.
tackling cheat meals. How do you conduct it as related to your meal plan? Extra cardio ?
So I don't ever tell people to do extra cardio, but what I like people to do is, if you plan on having a cheat meal, which most athletes tend to do it on a Friday or Saturday night because they like to feel normal, go out, whatever, is do something the next morning. Have something that gets you to move. Like if your rest day is on a Sunday, ideally it might not be the best to have a cheat meal on Saturday night to where you're just going to wake up and still sit with all that food just in you, trying to. So if you can, do something active the next morning to help kind of process all that and get your blood sugar back to normal. So that would be my only thing when it comes to restrictions on cheat meals. And secondly, make sure it's balanced. Make sure it's a protein, fat, carb. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I want to have pizza. Oh, I want to have fried chicken and fried French fries. I'm like, your stomach's going to be wrecked. You know what I mean? I get you want that. That's okay, but maybe have a chicken, Caesar salad beforehand. Have a slice or two of pizza, and then be good. Versus like just pizza. So always try to think about having balance, and then try to make it to where you can be active either the rest of that day if you're doing it for breakfast or the next morning.
Now, I'll give y'all a little backstory. D never knew about my cheat meals back in the day. Now, I had to start sliding him into the conversation so he knew what I was doing. Now, I'm going to preface this with, I didn't have cheat meals for the first 9 to 10 years of my career. So when I meet D and he's like, oh, you can have a cheat meal, I'm like, bet, say less. I'm finna eat. Okay? Yep. And for y'all that don't know, I was really eating. I would do a full pizza. This is back when, because I met my husband and Reese at the same time. So, yeah, basically same anniversary. Kind of crazy. I would eat with a full pizza. I would get a muffin, one of them big muffins from Sam's Club. I would have a Five Guys fry on the side. I would also have these big cookies. I forgot where I used to get it from. And ice cream, too. Like, I was doing a lot of things. Mind you, I don't think because that was back when our preps were real short. I probably ate that amount all the way until 3 weeks out. And D was asking me like, dang, why you ain't losing no weight? Mind you, I'm good. I'm thick, swole, y'all. Yeah. I'm on it. I'm looking like, hey, it still look good, so I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Whatever. Hey, let's ride. And so I kept eating that. And I literally got on stage. It was going into the first Olympia, our first Olympia together, where I got third place. I was like 143 on stage, stat. Okay, you couldn't tell me nothing. My mom was like, you look nice. I said, it's all that pizza I was eating. So I'm gonna tell y'all my growth. There's a growth process that happened during these 9 years, because that's how I started out, and I just didn't care. Like, I would be so lethargic the next day. But I would do my workout, I would do my HIIT, I would kill it, and then again, the weight would always fall off by the next week. So I said, clearly I'm doing something right. It always goes back off. The swelling always leaves. It always kind of mellows back out. So I just kept doing it. Then fast forward, I want to say it was after... No, it wasn't after I won the first one. It may have been like 2 or 3 years later that I kind of started being like, okay, is this pizza really doing anything for you overall? Like, do you even like pizza still? Like, how do you feel after? Start paying more attention to how I felt with the food I was eating. And so then I stopped eating pizza. I would eat pizza or pasta once a year, and it would only be post-show on my food festival in another country. That was all of the requirements that had to happen for me to eat pizza or eat pasta. And I found that allowed me to get, because I told you I got more intense as I got older, and the more I won, I got more intense. I just got really, really hyper focused. And so For me, it was about, especially being a natural athlete, how much can I cut out to make my experience better, to make myself better year after year after year, while I don't have any extra help. It's all on my decisions that are going to make me get to where I want to go and bring a better look. And so if say I don't eat all that food during my cheat meal, maybe I can still keep my cheat meals in down the road for a longer period of time instead of getting them snatched. See, foresight. I was growing. I was getting grown, y'all. I was getting grown. I was like, you know what? Let me think long game, long game, long game. And so then it was so funny because I remember I started telling D about my cheat meals, and next thing you know, he started making the cheat meals. He was like, how about we do this? How about you have these 3 options? You can choose from this 1, 2, 3. I said, God damn it, I shouldn't have said nothing. But hey, it was for the betterment of my life and the betterment of my career. And so I got a lot better with it, to the point where the last prep, we kept cheats in for the whole entire time. Mind you, the year before we had to pull them early because I was getting thick. So for this last prep, we kept them in for a very, very long time, and that was my best prep, where I just was like chill all over. But I also knew that even if I hadn't retired last year, I still was on the back end of my career. Whether I went for 9, whether I went for 10, you still only have 1 or 2 or 3 years left. And so for the way I looked at it is, I need to start preparing my mind and my body for retirement. And I know in retirement, if I'm not doing the same workload with that same intensity, and I don't want to be extra thick, because I told you I can carry some meat on these bones. If I don't want all the extra meat and I want to still be able to move like a functional athlete, I need to reel it in now. And so that's what I did these last year. So by the time I get to now, it's kind of like, it's very chill where you don't need it all. So when I do my cheat meals, I still do it. I'll eat all my regular meals throughout the day, not all of them. I'll cut out my 5th and 6th meal, so that way I'm putting my cheat. I make sure my cheat is at minimum those calories, and just like visually, like, okay, I know this much protein. I make sure I have at minimum that much food. Then I add extra on top of that, so it actually acts as a refeed instead of me eating the same exact calories, because then it's not a refeed. I'm eating the same thing. I could have just ate my same meals. So I add a little extra calories on top of that to make sure that I'm actually eating in that surplus that I was supposed to eat for that day. But again, I still do my same cardio. I don't stop eating the whole day. I don't go lose my mind the next day and do a boot camp. I don't do none of that. And even when I was doing my food festivals, like post-show, I would go out the country. I would still go get my steps in, move around, and that's why I chose out the country, because it's more of a walkable type of thing where you're walking, getting your steps in. Yeah. So I'm always getting my movement. I'm able to eat that food and make it digest, and literally eat, walk, eat, walk, eat, walk. So every time I eat, the body is moving, it's pushing through, and that's probably the best thing that worked for me, my cheat meals. So even now, after I have a cheat meal, I'll just go on a little walk, 10 minutes, for sure. Yep. And then sit down, go to bed.
Yep.
Okay. All right, next question. Y'all are doing real good with these questions. Now, this is a good one. Dee can definitely answer this one. What are the best shows to do to qualify for the Olympia once you become a pro?
Pittsburgh Pro. That's going to be your first show out the gate. So, like, all my newbies, whether you're new to me as an athlete or new to like earning your IFBB, pro card, is Pittsburgh Pro. It's the one show besides the Olympia and the Arnold where you're going to get all the head judges at the table. So I tell people this because it's strategic, for one. Whether you go to Pittsburgh and you do well, you do average, you kind of get kicked in the noggin, it just allows you to get feedback from all the judges, and you can kind of see which judge maybe gives you the better feedback as far as your physique and what they like, because everybody has preferences. We all have preferences as humans. So it's nice to be able to get different perspectives from different judges on the level of conditioning, muscularity, fullness, stuff like that. So Pittsburgh's always my start point. To me, the order of like levels of shows is the Olympia, Pittsburgh, and then to be honest, I'm gonna put Arnold below Pittsburgh. That's a personal preference of mine. So this is what it is. But Pittsburgh's always my top show. That's just because, like I said, it's the only show besides those two big shows where you're going to get feedback across the board.
Mm-hmm. So now, in terms of like trying to find your footing too. So like I said, Dee said that's a great show to do. It makes perfect sense. So once you go to Pittsburgh, kind of what's next, or what should you do before then? If your goal is to get to the Olympia, you got to strategize a little bit, because if you go into Pittsburgh, guess what? Them heavy hitters gonna be in there too.
Oh, yeah. Especially now with the type of money they're giving away now.
That's what I'm saying. The money is up. Like the girlies are about to be out there. And so what I tell my ladies is, You got to strategize. So let's go back into history. There used to only be 5 head judges back when I was coming up. And so I just sit there and watched. I watched who won, who didn't. So for me, I never went to the West Coast because what I saw was all the slimmer girls showed up and they won. So I stayed my little slick swole self on over to the South where I was raised. I'm going to stay over here in the South, North. I didn't go further than Chicago. That's about it. That's all I can do. Because I said at that point, I'm going to be too big. So I only went Midwest when I knew I was coming in very skinny. Okay, I said, I'm coming a little slim. Let me go. And that's where I got my first win. So when I was my thicker, I went up to Toronto, loved that show. Steve was head judging at that time, Steve Weinberger, and I went to Toronto, did that show, and I placed well. But that was when I had like my track muscle, and I'd always been told like, okay, the muscle girls, they placing well right here. They place well in front of Steve. Like you said, you're going to see who has their preferences and what. And what I started to see was, okay, Steve does like muscle, so let me get in front of the judges that I know are going to reward muscle. So that's what I did, and so I strategized based off of that. But also too, if your goal is to get to Olympia. Sometimes, it depends on what type of pro you want to be. If you want to be that girl, all right, you want to stand up with other people who are that girl. So that way you can see, are you really that girl? You see? So, but then that's one way to go about it. A slick way to do it is go to one of them shows that's real small, 10 people, get up in there. You're going scoot on up in there. So it just depends on what type of pro you want to be. And if your goal is to get to Olympia, you got to utilize some strategies so that way you're able to kind of better your chances. But it's also a strategy in terms of when you're picking those shows. Are you going to pick a show that's dead before the Olympia or right after? Wouldn't necessarily be that wise unless, again, you are that girl. And you can show up wherever. No matter who show up, you're going to be it. That's okay. But if you're questioning that and you already went to Pittsburgh and they already told you, hey, you got a little more work to do that work, circle back to Pittsburgh possibly, or test out a couple other shows and still circle back to Pittsburgh. So that way you're kind of seeing where you are and get a different variety of the quality of athletes that are going to show up. So you got to just decide that and strategize. Okay. All right. Last question coming up. It's a good one. All right. I'm going to go with, do we want to go to number 9 or go to number 8? Okay. How to be financially prepared for bodybuilding and how to save money. All right. So I've gone through all stages of life in this career. I was the broke person. I was the broke student. I was the okay student, and I was the person who doing all right, okay? All of those stages require me to do very, very different things. Now, when I was the broke student, D used to be like, hey, that's at the end of the show. He's like, can you get some tilapia? Mind you, I'm still getting my food from the Piggly Wiggly, okay? The food depot, okay? We're not getting no bougie meats. We're not getting no bougie chicken. I'm finna get that cheap chicken from the Piggly Wiggly, okay? That's what I can do, and I'm gonna get $10. That's what I'm finna get. D was like at the end, he's like, hey, can you do some tilapia? First of all, I didn't even eat tilapia for real. I'm telling you now. I didn't eat tilapia before I got with D. I didn't eat it at all. I ate fried whiting fish, okay? That's it. Fried fish, that's all I ate. He was like, can you do at least like one day? And I'm looking like, I checked my little purse strings. Can I do one day? I might be able to do one day because, again, a pound of tilapia is like $7. I'm finna eat that in a day. So I'm like, oh, I can't swing it. And so by then in my brokest, the craziest thing, I was my brokest once I graduated. I was actually doing better in college at the end than when I graduated and had no job. So that was by that point. But let's backtrack to student. Student-wise, this is when your personality and who you are as a person can work out to your benefit. So for me, I worked 2 jobs, ran track, sorority, still made it to all the parties, still did all the things as a student. My benefit was I had a great relationship with my dining hall workers. And that was before I started working with them. So we're in the middle of West Philly, and I was that lone little black girl, because mind you, I'm in the Ivies, honey. There ain't nothing but, we might have been like 2% of people. I don't even know. Maybe max 7. Max. And so they took me under their wing. And so the benefit of that was I didn't have to buy anything because I ran out of those dining dollars. I ran out of them. I had no more. I didn't have no money. And at that time, I didn't have a job because my parents didn't want me to work yet. And so I just ran track, was broke and trying to make it and survive off my financial aid. And so that's when my dining hall workers really came in and they cooked all my chicken. They said, see, you getting ready for them swole competitions? See, I'm like, yeah. One of my favorite guys named Mr. Don. He used to come in, have me a whole tray of chicken. I mean, a whole assortment. And they weren't supposed to be doing this, but hey, again, relationships. Use those relationships. He would bring me out a whole tray of freshly baked chicken, pack it up and be like, okay, come back next week. Let me know what you need. So the dining hall fed me off the books. The people in Philly fed me to make sure that I was good and make sure I was able to eat. And so building relationships with those people in those sectors is going to be important, especially if you're a student, because most students are broke. Okay. Especially at the Ivies and you on financial aid, baby, you ain't got no money. Okay. So you don't have it. And they know that. And so people are willing to help you if you tell them you need help. And as a person who doesn't like to ask for help, sometimes you got to say, hey, like I don't have it. I might need a little help. Slide me this type of thing. Help me out. And so I build those relationships all through the dining hall, through our little grocery store on campus, and your girl finessed it, not paying a dime, okay? When that financial aid ran out, I ain't paying for nothing. So that's a key thing in college. But then when I started having my job by like junior year, I started working. And then again, I went to I lived probably like on 44th Street in the middle of West Philly. And there was a grocery store down the left side. I forgot what it was called. They didn't have Piggly Willies in the north. I don't think. It was Quick and Save or something like that. Again, it was like a Piggly Wiggly. I mean, that meat was so terrible looking. But again, I'm on my diet. Like, I'm doing what I can do. And I would get my little ground chicken. I get the cheapest meat I could. It's healthy enough. And then I try to make sure that I'm, again, choosing the cheapest meats. Choose the cleanest meats you can. Choose the cheapest ones and recognize that this is just a phase in your life. You can eventually, once you get going, you can get to the point where you can get the better cuts. But for now, you'll be all right with that little bit of lesser meat. People eat it all the time and they're still alive. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Will you look your absolute best? Maybe not. We don't know. But I did that. I got the meat from the cheapest stores I could. I made sure I filled up all my water on campus. I didn't bring my gallons. I filled them up when I went to track practice, filled everything up at the dining hall or down there at the little dining halls. And then I started working more. And then once I started working more, I was able to get more of that cheap meat and then go from there. But then, yeah, so for college, for my students, it's just going to be making sure that you get the cheaper meats if you are buying your own food and utilize your dining hall and strategize very, very much as you can. And if your friends ask you to go to their houses, yep, you better go. Go on over there and try to get some of their meat, especially if they're friends that are kind of going to help you out a little bit. So that's for my students. Then when you're just regular broke and you're not even a student anymore, you better get on the food stamps. If we still have them, you better get on them, because I sure did. I politely graduated. I said, I need help. I'm over here working 2 jobs. I'm working 14 hours a day. I need some help. Sure do. And that saved me. I was on food stamps when I met you, D. Yeah, I was on food stamps then. Yep, I was. And then my goal then was, okay, I got to get off of these. I got to work hard. And honestly, too, it's not even about working harder. It's about having a job that's going to able to get your finances into place. Because a lot of people on food stamps are working very, very hard. Like I said, I was working 14 hours a day. I'm not being lazy. I'm moving. I'm trying to get things going. But again, 14 hours a day at $10 an hour, and sometimes at $7.25, that ain't really cutting it if you especially can't do that job all the time and you're still technically part-time. So it's a whole little gamut of that. But if you are able to qualify for food stamps, I would get on those. I tell all my students, you can apply for food stamps when you're in college. A lot of my friends did because we were all on financial aid. So you're able to get your food stamps while you're in college to help supplement your food while you're there. So that's going to be a key thing. And then once I finally started, I got going good after I started winning a few more shows and started transitioning my life and really started working the business in, and then opening up my posing business and started letting that flourish a lot more, because all that started a little bit before I met D, but I started my posing business, and that's when my life started to shift. And then of course Survivor helped a lot in terms of getting me on my feet, because there's a lot of people, they only need one good move to get them where they need to go. And for me, it was meeting somebody like D who could help support me and be like, listen, hey, if you can't eat 3 weeks or a month of fish, give me a day. Give me 2 days. And as he saw I was getting a little bit more money, he was like, okay, let's go to a week. Can you do 2 weeks? And I'm like, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I can do it. But that's as the finances started coming. So that way I'm able to slowly, gradually get into that. But it takes a coach who has that understanding of how broke you actually are. But it also takes communication to say, hey, this is my dream. I still want to do this, but can you help me do it when I'm broke?
Yeah. No,
Go ahead.
I think everything you say is really, really good. I think, like you said, relationships are always important. You know, if you're at a gym and there's other competitors, ask other competitors, like, hey, do you have any old suits that you don't use anymore, or ones that you're willing to maybe rent? Every girl in our sport, I think, when they start, thinks they need to have this really luxurious, brand new, sparkly suit. And I'm like, those suits are expensive. So unless you can really afford that, I don't necessarily think that's a good idea. If you're good with social media, even if you don't have a big following, reach out to the supplement companies and say, hey, you know, if I am willing to do X, Y, and Z, can you guys send me some free supplements? You know, Evogen always does sales all the time. Look for sales when they have sales and try to stock up on what you can. But also when it comes to the supplements, stick to the bare necessities. If you don't have a lot of money, don't try to get 3 different supplements that you maybe don't need. Look at what you really need to help supplement your diet with, whether it's a protein powder, and then stick with that and then kind of build from there. So I think trying to find ways to cut corners. If it's your first show, you don't necessarily need to get your hair and makeup done. Do the best you can. Watch YouTube tutorial. Back then when you started, they didn't really have much of that.
They didn't have none of that. I came on stage with an eyelash on lean. That eyelash was
Yep. But do that your first time out. You know what I mean? If you really want to do a show, and I know promoters maybe won't love to hit us, but if you can't afford a lot, do one category. Do one thing. Just, you know, do novice if that's all you can afford. If you can do more and you want to do more, great. But if you can't, there's always ways to cut corners financially that you're still able to get on stage and still enjoy that process. So.
And all of it, too, is really assessing the necessities in your life, too. So outside of the supplements, what are you spending money on that you don't need to spend money on?
Yeah.
And so the key thing is for me, back in that day when I was broke, I only spent my money on food. I didn't go out. I didn't go to the club. I went to work, went to sleep, work, sleep, gym. That's it.
And you wore raggedy ass clothes.
And I still do.
Every free bodybuilding t-shirt on the planet, she had. And she wore them till they had holes in them and still wore them. So that's another thing. They prioritize. Everybody want to look good nowadays, you know? I'm like, shit, you spend a lot of money on clothes. You're talking to a person that got way too many of them.
Yeah. And so it's a matter of just kind of really bearing down, focusing on the key things, like Dee said, the necessities. So use, again, your relationships. If you know somebody that does good makeup, they can do your makeup. Like, hey, girl, if you do your makeup, I'll let you train with me or do something else. Whatever your skill is, have a skill. That's going to be one. Have a skill so you're able to barter, too, because that can be really, really helpful as you're going through this process. But again, like you said, you don't need to buy everything, but you got to strategize in your regular lifestyle what your expenses actually are and see if you can afford the sport. For me, thankfully, when I was broke, it was all my only responsibility was me. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a boyfriend. I didn't have a husband. It was me. And so when I met my husband, I was on food stamps still, but he kind of just saw me kind of just travel up. But there's ways to do it, but you just have to, you got to have that finesse. And you got to, what I say, you got to have that dog in you. You got to have that little hustle that's like, all right, this door closed, I'm going to pop over here. This one popped, I'm going to pop over. You got to just keep prairie dogging and finding where you fit in. And then you'll find your way. And then eventually, if your cars fall and you keep having faith in yourself and working towards your goal, the doors will open. You will have an opportunity, but you just got to make sure you are the person that is ready for that opportunity when it comes. And for me, I was ready for the opportunity when I jumped in the door and was like, listen, this is going to change my life. And it did. And it allowed me to put myself on the trajectory that I am in now. But it all takes you just preparing yourself through all those struggles, through all those financial issues to make sure that you are ready to rock and roll. And now what I will say now is, as an adult on the other side, is just strategizing. If you really can't afford the sport, wait and save. Because the stress is one thing, but for me, in my heart of hearts, I knew nobody could not tell me I was not going to be Miss Olympia. And that self-belief made me max out my credit cards, made me be broke, and made me push through the brokenness to get to this other side. But I knew in my mind, but just realistically and even optimistically, I knew who I was going to be. And that allowed me to kind of just dive in with a blindfold. I don't suggest that for everybody. I do not suggest that for everybody. That would be unwise of me to suggest that. So take that in, take what you need from it, but it is a way to do it less financially well off. There's a way to do it, but you gotta have some wiggle room in there. You gotta be able to afford your regular life things you need and then move on from there.
Yeah, and you got to be honest, you got to be able to have help as well. You got to
Yeah.
surround yourself around people that are willing to invest in you. You know what I mean? If you really believe in what you're doing, and you can convince the people around you that care about you to believe in what you're doing, people will help. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a coach. Coaches will help. We will do what we can to help people. Now, all my current clients, if y'all text me tomorrow, I want discounts. Nope, ain't happening. But at the same time, I have athletes all the time that get in situations, and I am invested in them, and I believe in them, and I do what I can to help. It's sometimes you just got to ask people, hey, this is what I want to really do. Obviously, be realistic with your ask, but you'd be surprised how many people are willing to help you achieve something because they just want to see you like excel and be happy. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
surround yourself around people that invest and believe in you. You know.
And that's about it. That was one
Yeah,
of our
buddy.
last questions. We have about 25 more questions to go, but we will put those into another episode. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. Also, get into these lock shots, CB.
Oh yeah. But that's all. That's all they can see because you was wearing a red shirt. You got a red background. They just like,
Oh, I
hey.
didn't even think about that, but I got the white chair.
Yeah, okay, there you go. There you go. They just been seeing a big old head this whole time.
All right, y'all. This is Sydney Gillen,
Damian Segovia.
and this is Cyclence Unlocked. We'll see y'all for episode 4.
See you guys next time.